coming to you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Matt, and joined with me as always is my co-host,
Roger.
And this is the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast. How many months has it been now? I think the last episode went out in March.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'd say either March or hell, even end of February, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so April, May, June, July, and it's August, and it's been about five months. You know, we're a little late on the fourth episode of this season, and we are very ill prepared. I didn't even have the podcast stats brought up. It's been so long it logged me out.
You know what they say, better late than never.
Yeah, I hope that's true. So, obviously it's been a long time. Haven't uploaded anything new. But that doesn't mean nobody's listened. Up to 4,677 downloads with inactivity.
So that's about what were we at last time? Like 3,000?
Yeah, around there. I think it was like around 3,500, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So that's like close to 1,000 downloads without uploading a single episode of the podcast. Yeah, I don't know how much we want to talk about this right now.
We'll just get into the episode and we can talk about it later if we want.
Alright. So if you want to know the secrets to why we've been gone, stick around till the end of the episode. Don't skip to the end. Now that we're back, we're coming back firing with some big names, hopefully. Today we have the Skookum Monster versus Black Shuck. Another Bigfoot-esque cryptid, and then more of a dog creature. I don't think we've ever... Well...
We've covered some dog creatures.
Somewhat, yeah. I guess if you count Wolfman. Or Dogman, sorry. In the werewolf.
It's been so long you don't even know Dogman. Oh,
yeah, I know. I'm just... The only times I check the podcast nowadays are when I get like emails like, oh, here's your weekly roundup of views, and then I'll check, and then I just look at the most popular ones, which are the cryptids versus conspiracies. And so I don't even think of all the old episodes. But yeah, so we're gonna wing it, a little rusty, but we'll do it how we've always done it.
Just gotta get the rust off, and hopefully we stick to it this time.
Right? That's the plan. We'll talk more about it at the end. So, do you want to kick us off with Skookum Monster history?
Yeah, sure. Lurking within the forest of Washington State, there lives a group of aggressive Bigfoot creatures. Reports of the creatures have been around for centuries, starting with stories coming from Native Americans about aggressive wild men that inhabited the region. Following these stories were reports that started in the 1920s with the report of an attack on some prospectors that were traveling through the Washington forests. These reports have been accumulated throughout the centuries, with one of them leading to what could be called the single greatest evidence of existence of Bigfoot in the area. Could there be an aggressive ape-man lurking around in the area, or could this yet be another false hope of the existence of a legend of Bigfoot?
So yeah, the Skookum Monster, the fifth, maybe fourth Bigfoot we've covered so far.
At this point, there's too many of them, but, you know, we gotta cover them all if we want to be accurate.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about this guy is, if you follow Bigfoot lore, you've heard of the Skookum cast, which, when you think of cast, you think, oh, the big foot, the foot cast of the big feet.
Yeah.
This one's obviously way different. While I'm talking about this, I will pull up a picture. It's... From what I know and what I've gathered about my Bigfoot research over the years, is that the Skookum cast is on the level of proof that... Oh god, I'm rusty as fuck. You know that really like popular Bigfoot video in the forest where he's walking...
Oh, the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Patterson-Gimlin film, yes. People say it's like on that level.
On that level? Whoa.
On that level.
Okay.
So we got a picture pulled up here. Google sucks. I don't know how to really enlarge it, so this is okay. Well, I'm about to enlarge it.
Yeah.
No, I don't want a Facebook account. So we're looking at it here. I guess, we'll get into believability at the end of this, so I'll just play it neutral for now. What could make this a very big, compelling piece of evidence is that it's not just a footprint. Mm-hmm. It's supposedly a full body kind of print.
Yeah.
Minus, like, the face or...
I don't know.
Laying flat down.
I don't know about the two, like, butts right here when the butt talk is right here, but this could be easily something else. That's why they have a question mark by those two. But, yeah, I can look at it and see.
Dude has some wide cheeks. That's all I'm saying. Like, there's a big gap in between each cheek there.
Well, you gotta think about it. It's a giant 9 to 8 feet tall thing, and that's just...
This is true. Yeah, I don't know. I'll touch on how I feel about it, but it could very well be one of the biggest pieces of evidence when it comes to Bigfoot history and Bigfoot evidence. And there's I believe the guy who got the print had seen the Skookum Monster at some point, and so they went on this big expedition. And they got this cast because they laid like a little food trap for just something to come and eat. And they weren't expecting to get like this full lay down or sitting down kind of print, but they ended up getting it.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. And like I was describing to you, for everybody listening at home, to get an accurate description of what I'm about to describe, you should pull up the picture of the Skookum cast, specifically the one where it highlights and labels where they think or how they think the Bigfoot was sitting. So you have the two buck cheeks, so imagine him just sitting. If you're sitting in that position where it has the heels, I imagine that's him sitting down, leg bent, with his heel up closer to his chest, or just pulled up closer. The other buttocks, I think the biggest imprint right there could be maybe him like leaning more on his side, and that's why you get elbow, forearm, the whole arm right there print. And so... I guess he's laying... You guys won't be able to see, but I'm guessing he's laying like this, I guess?
Yeah, so he's probably... It's one of those things where you just kind of lean back, like almost on your back, and you're laying down.
Oh my god. You know the sexy pose when you go to take school pictures and you get the sexy pose?
Yeah.
That's like, what this reminds me of.
Kind of like the... What's his name from Jurassic Park? I forget it. You know the fucking mathematician from Jurassic Park?
The original one?
Yes.
I've seen it like one time. So
my! You've only seen Jurassic Park one time?
Mm-hmm. And I can't recall it at all.
Oh my god.
I'm not big into the whole Jurassic Park.
Well, it's not exactly that pose, but it's kind of like that pose, except for he doesn't have his like arm on his like head or his hand on his head. He's more of kind of with the shoulder on there. Ow. Yeah, it's better if you guys look it up, because us explaining it, because we're retards, aren't going to really give you the best accurate description of it. But yeah, I can see how this is some pretty good evidence. It's just like the whole the Yeti with the footprint. It's kind of like that, where if you see something like that, it's very, very believable at that point.
In the show notes, obviously, I'm going to link everywhere where I found the evidence for the write-ups and stuff. But when I was doing some research into this print, I guess they had some scientists, I don't know the specific names of stuff. I don't have that information pulled up right next to me because my tablet's dead. But 2 biologists did look at this, and they say it's not any animal that they could recognize. So if you want to take that and run with it, there's some credence to this possibly being, or validating this as Bigfoot evidence.
Yeah, so the same thing about this monster. So there's this one, and then a lot of people just think this is a group of Bigfoots. So the most accurate evidence that was a Bigfoot back in the day was that prospector story. Everyone thought it was a Bigfoot.
This one's huge, and I believe we've even spoke on that story very slightly in the original first episode.
Yeah, so just to recap the story, prospectors go prospecting, and they have a little shack, and so when they're going out and looking for the mine to go into, they see this giant figure sitting within the woods, and it's just kind of stalking them. So they kind of just throw something at it, and it just stays there. They literally hit it, and it's not doing anything. And then one guy just takes his gun and decides, hey, I'm going to shoot it. Tries to shoot it, does literally nothing, and that's when all three of them come in. And that's when the guys started running back to their shack. And so after that, they didn't really have anything. They would see them maybe every once in a while. They'd see like a figure just off in the distance, like they were stalking them. And then one of the nights that they were staying there, they started hearing things getting slammed against the whole building. Like there was three of them on different sides of the house. And eventually it starts leading to where they're breaking holes through the place. And one guy actually saw it was dark so he couldn't see exactly, but the light illuminated enough to like kind of see the one of the Skookum monsters there. And then so he took his gun, tried to shoot at it, and I think it finally scared it away. And so then they left after hours of torture.
And when you guys are hearing this story, you got to keep in mind there's no windows on this shack. So when they're throwing these rocks through the building, it's not like they're just throwing it through the glass.
Yeah.
They're throwing it through a 2x4.
Yeah.
These rocks.
Also why, guys, they couldn't even shoot at it, too. They just kind of...
Yeah, no, they're just sitting there. They're just caught in a corner. There is nothing they can do. They can't just barge out and fight these things. They're way bigger from what they've seen. And
when they tell their story, they legitimately think that they were going to die that night because of what was going on there.
Yeah, and it brings up another interesting talking point when it comes to the Skookum Monster. They seem to be very territorial.
Oh, yeah.
And now, territorial and aggressive. And I say this because during my research, there was an article that said there's reported killings and stuff, which I couldn't really find anything on that. Like actual killings or things. Maybe they're talking about animals or something else, but they are reported to be killers, which you don't typically see with a lot of Bigfoot.
They are definitely a lot more aggressive than a lot of the Bigfoot.
But I think that you got any more on the Skookum?
No, that's just like the biggest story is the prospectors. Yeah. Obviously there's more, but they're not, it's more of just sightings of them and then something happens and they run away.
Yeah, I'm sure there's hundreds of small reports of Bigfoot sightings which you could attribute.
Attribute?
That doesn't sound right. Attribute. There you go. You could attribute it to the Skookum Monster because it's in that region. But, I mean, if we just brought up every small sighting, we would just be repeating the same thing over and over. So, with that out of the way, let's hop into the next segment of the show that we totally remember how to do accurately. Characteristics, stats, and abilities. I still remembered to say it out of order. Characteristics. It's not going to differ much from your typical Bigfoot. Yeah. Skookum Monster is pretty much just Bigfoot. I've got some things to change it up a little bit, but it's one of the types of Bigfoot that's just super close to Bigfoot, but it gets the name attributed to it because of the region.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like kind of the first Bigfoot sightings that they were all together, and is that what started the whole Bigfoot kind of have their groups they stay in?
I would say yes. Native American stories, if you want to take those into account, then I would say no. But if you're talking about like reports to newspapers or cities and just big populations like that, I would say yeah, this is probably the originator of Bigfoot kind of tribes or families and stuff like that. So for characteristics, 8 to 9 feet tall, 300 to 400 pounds. The one thing I did notice about this one that's a little different from your typical Bigfoot is that a lot of the depictions from artists, from accounts, is that their hair's a lot thicker and a lot longer. But that was the only characteristic that really stuck out.
They might just not have the keep-up game like Bigfoot does.
Yeah, the other ones. They're sharpening their rocks to keep it slim. And then abilities, all I really had was extreme rage, just to kind of keep things a little more fun in the show.
Yeah.
I don't know if we threw out abilities freely like that back in the day, but you know.
I don't know. I think this Bigfoot, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know what I'm thinking. I have the word on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. Just a different Bigfoot, or just
like a breed.
Yeah, breed of Bigfoot. Is that this one's definitely probably a lot more stronger because they were throwing these rocks through and breaking through. It was a log cabin, so it's not like a plank of wood. It's it's not
just your basic
log
thing. Like, this shit's thick.
Yeah,
you got to keep that in mind.
So I think they are a little bit, when they're agitated, they're stronger
Definitely
than most
stronger.
Bigfoot.
So you think that that's good labeled extreme rage?
Yeah.
Okay. And now the fun part. We'll hop into stats. So starting off, we have intelligence. I'm pretty sure I can pull up our original Bigfoot stuff because I do have that on my phone. And I'm pretty sure we gave Bigfoot like around a 6 or something.
I might go a little higher for this one, but...
Now, do we want to do... Yeah, we'll just go with what we originally gave him on the very first episode notes. Intelligence of 7. So I would say that's pretty high.
That's what I was going to rate it if it was a 6, because you got to think these are definitely a lot smarter creatures, because obviously they're attacking from different points. They're using rocks as weapons.
Well, and
so
they're
they
in
have to have
packs and
knowledge.
stuff.
They're stalking their prey, so they're trying to follow them.
Oh, yeah.
So they obviously have to have some form of intelligence more than others.
And I would say it's definitely way higher than just your base kind of animal intelligence, so I'm fine with giving it a 7. And then we come to an interesting one, power. Now, very quickly, I'm going to try, because I know we gave Bigfoot a 10 when we originally did this, and I do remember that we redid the first episode for one of our anniversaries, so I kind of want to bring it up. Yeah, I have no idea.
We gave him a 10, right? For his stats still? I don't think we changed strength, at least.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but
I mean, definitely a 10.
I think his power was a 10. Every other stat might have changed, but regularly, Bigfoot breeds all have a 10 strength. Except for, I think we had one that was lower.
I think the skunk ape was lower because of its more slim build.
There was another one too, I think, but I can't remember what it is. But I think this one actually might be to be 11. Because
11? I was thinking about that same thing.
Just because of that rage and the fact that they're obviously throwing harder than other Bigfoots would, because they're breaking through shit. It's not just like, they weren't throwing boulders, but they were throwing pretty solid rocks, and to break something like that, you have to have a pretty good arm.
Oh yeah, no, you have to have crazy strength. So we'll go power 10, but then we'll throw in the 11 with its rage buff active. And then we hop over to defense. I'm thinking either a 6 or a 7.
I'm gonna be honest, they took a bullet without even being phased by it. Actually,
Well,
not even one. They took multiple bullets without being phased by it.
Go ahead.
The only time I know that they got phased by it was on the night attack when they finally shot through that hole. They got scared by it and ran away.
Yeah, I don't know if that would...
To be honest, I can't even remember fully the story because this was a while ago when I heard it. But I'm almost certain that they didn't even run away from that shot. They just kind of finally gave up after the hours of torture that they gave
I
them.
think it's more they just gave up. I did read some conflicting reports that said the prospectors killed one of them. They shot it 3 times and then its body fell down a canyon.
I didn't even hear that.
But that was only one source. Nowhere else ever mentioned anything like that.
And even if that was the case, we would have had proof at that point. So I can't believe that one.
Yeah. So do you want to go with a defensive 8 then?
Yeah. I would say his defense is 6 or 7, but the fact that he was taking shots and just not being phased by it, they gotta have a little higher.
Okay, then we have mobility.
I don't know too much about this one. I don't know. I would say maybe a 6 or so, but I don't know how fast they were moved.
We originally gave Bigfoot a 7.
Gave him a 7?
A 7. But I don't know. This is a tough one. I could go 7, but I could also go 6.
I mean, I guess he can move to a 7 because he was gone most of the time. Like, the prospectors would get over there after they shot them and they ran away, and they'd just be gone. So I think it's kind of like how Bigfoot was, and I know we don't like it, but the Patterson-Giblin film, he was just gone after that second.
Just disappeared after the video was shot.
It's kind of just a Bigfoot thing that they just run off and they're gone entirely. So I would say it's probably the same as Bigfoot there.
Then I can go with the 7. Now we have HP. Always a hard one to gauge.
Yeah, because HP and defense, one to put in the same deal, but you don't know how well they can take their health and stuff.
Yeah.
But you can obviously know that their defense is a little more better.
Well, especially when there's no evidence to be like, oh, we attacked and did this and it hurt, but it still got away, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because when they shot it with I think they shot it with a shotgun. It was either that or a rifle. I wasn't phased by it.
I think that'd be more of a defense thing, because if it doesn't hurt, then there's no way to gauge like how much damage it would take and its reaction to it. I think we gave Bigfoot an 8, so I would say a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, well, let's go 7.
7. And then we have stealth.
I mean, they were stalking them, but they weren't being very stealthy about it.
Yeah.
Like they weren't
like super hidden.
So obviously they know to keep their distance and everything, but I don't know if they're actually that stealthy.
Yeah.
And they were able to stay away from them for a couple of hours, out of sight from them, until nighttime hit, and then they went to bed, and they obviously knew that was a time to attack. So they have to have some stealth, but I don't think they're the greatest. I would say maybe like at most a 5.
At most a 5. I kind of want to give them a 6 just for their ability to disappear and vanish from the prospectors.
That's true.
But I don't know if I'd go any higher than that.
No, because my thing is with the stalking, that wasn't really more of their stealth. It was more of their intelligence, just to stay back and take notes of who they are going to attack.
I guess I could go with a 5 then. And is there anything else we do after the stealth besides the roundup? I think that's about where we leave it. And then we move on to the next one. Yeah. Okay. Cool. For our quick roundup, characteristics: 8 to 9 feet tall, 3 to 400 pounds, thick, long fur. Abilities: extreme rage. Stats: intelligence of 7, power of 10, but also power of 11 with rage active. Defense 8, mobility 7, HP 7, health 5. Pretty good roundup right there. And now we move on to our next competitor, the Black Shuck. Along the coast of East Anglia, there are reports of a creature said to be the devil itself. Its howl is said to be an announcement of death, and its eyes to be a reflection of the fires of hell. This creature is known by many names, but is most commonly known as Black Shuck. This devilish creature has been said to be prowling the coastline for many centuries, dating as far back as 1127 AD. Sightings of Black Shuck continued to pile up throughout the centuries, with some being more tame than others. Many believe that this creature is some kind of spirit instead of a flesh and blood creature, either that of a dead dog or the spirit of a farmer who took his own life. Are the reports and stories of a demonic dog true, or are these simply the stories of legend passed down by Vikings who settled the East Anglia area? So yeah, this guy's an interesting one. We usually don't talk about kind of spirits and stuff, but obviously we're going to keep it grounded here. I didn't throw any spiritual, magical abilities down there.
Yeah, when I was looking this one up, I got... It's going to sound retarded, but I got, like, kind of Smile Dog vibes, because it is told when you see this thing, you don't, first of all, when you hear it howling, you never want to take a precaution. You always just want to keep your eyes closed, because as soon as you see it, it is said that you will die within the end of the year. So, it's bad luck just to look at this thing.
Very much, even if it doesn't kill you yourself. It's just an omen of death.
Yeah. It's definitely very spiritual compared to a lot of stuff we've done, I would think.
I think it's probably, besides like any kind of special episode we did, I would definitely say it's the closest thing to like a spirit of some kind that we've touched on. Obviously its body and shape are grounded in a reality, but its whole like kind of backstory and the beliefs around it are definitely more spiritual than anything.
So, I think this is the one, it has like one eye, right? It has kind of like a cyclops eye in the middle.
It depends on the stories you go with. Some people say it's got 2 just large saucer-like eyes, but other stories and like the legends, a lot of the original legends say it was a cyclops.
Yeah, because from what I read, had like one cyclops eye, and it was just like a big black like dog figure. Is what it was. And so when they first saw it, they thought it was a black wolf, but then it turned around and I think it has like a glowing red eye.
Yeah, no, it's all like red, it glows. But that's pretty much the kind of accounts I got, was that it was the one with the just single red eye, but there's a couple that say it has 2, so I think it kind of just depends.
Oh, wow. It's not that big.
There's conflicting reports on the size. I'll get into it more, but I kind of gauged it somewhere in the middle. of where I would think it would be, if we're sticking more reality-based.
Yeah.
The most popular report, I don't remember when it happened, but it was obviously before modern times. There was a church, and they were holding their sermon, and the dog burst through the church doors, walked down the aisle, killed a dad and its son, crushed the podium of the church, and as it was leaving, it jumped up, pushed the door open with its paws, burnt, like, its paws seared 2 paw prints on the door, and they're still there to this day. I didn't actually see a photo, but that's what it says online, so it must be true. And I'm sure they're really seared marks and not some kind of painting on the door. You know? But that, there was another story, and I'll bring this up at the end when we talk about belief. But there is a story from a little girl during World War II who was in a camp after she'd been rescued and claimed to have seen the dog walking through her tent and then exiting. That was the whole encounter, but it just walked on through, came in, stopped, looked over at her, and kept on walking. And she described it, like, word for word as the black Shuck.
Now, since she saw it, did she die within the end of the year?
Nothing was said. But it was World War II, so it could probably go anyway. That's kind of grim, but it's the truth.
Yeah. This one's definitely weird, because I heard that it was almost 4 feet. Like, just on all 4 legs, it was 4 feet.
We'll get into that here in a second. I mean, that's 35 inches is...
That's, like, right
That's
below
like 3 feet.
It's 1 inch below 3.
Yeah. I mean, it can change. But the last story that I really read, because there's a few, but a lot of them are legends and stuff, so I didn't really want to cover it. I'm kind of trying to just stick to eyewitness accounts here. But there was one of another younger child who did not die within the year, but he was laying in bed and he could see out his window the black Shuck. I think it said he was on like the 2nd floor or something, and the dog came up to the window standing on the balcony and then walked off and disappeared completely. And he said he couldn't shout when he saw the dog. And I think he told this story in his late 20s, and he was like 5 to 6 when this happened. So, you know, take that as you will.
We'll have to talk about this at the end of the episode.
Yeah. But that's another account. But do you have any? Because those are pretty much just the more grounded ones that I could find.
What I got off of this one, because it was kind of last minute research, was just all the spiritual stuff. There goes my phone. But it was more of all just spiritual stuff about seeing this thing, dying within the year, or something's bad's gonna happen to you when you see this thing.
I mean, it's a very myth, folklore heavy kind of creature. But with all the storytelling out of the way, very interesting, insightful information. Let's move on to stats, characteristics, and abilities. For characteristics, it annoys me that on our layout, that characteristics is 1 page above and everything's below. 35 inches tall. You brought this up, so reports say that it varies in size from large dog, which is about 35 inches, a little shorter, to the size of a small calf.
Small calf?
Mm-hmm. So that's probably where you got your 4 feet tall thing from.
Well, small calf isn't that big. That's probably about like...
Well, not like...
35 or so.
Not like newborn calf. Okay,
so like...
But like...
Growing.
It's growing. Okay. So it's still small. It's not a full grown cow yet. But we can change it to 4 feet.
No, that should be fine. I mean, if that's 35, that's kind of like a wolf. Where wolves they're huge, but that's only them on their fucking just all fours, and then they stand up and they're taller than a human.
Oh yeah, no.
Because of their length and size.
And that's kind of how I imagine this thing is to be more wolf-like than dog-like.
Yeah.
Like 35 inches, big furry build, like a wolf, not just like your regular dog you see. Like this thing is big. And then we move on. I just guessed 100 to 130 pounds. Honestly, I would say more.
I could definitely say more because in all reality, if it's sitting at 35 inches tall, it's probably at least packing 200 pounds, I would think. Because wolves are heavy.
Yeah.
And if it's the size of a wolf, it's like 200, maybe 185.
And then the last big characteristic note is the bright red eyes. I say just for cinematics of our storytelling fight that we'll get to near the end of the episode, we go with the single eye. It's just cooler. And it gives it more of that cryptid kind of
just like a weird look. Other than just a big wolf, it's just one of the...
It's one of the things that'll differentiate it. And then for abilities, it's Death Howl. We could work that in somehow. I don't know, but...
I was going to bring that up because it was a big thing with him. Was once you hear that howl, you know something is going to happen.
I think we'll talk about this later on, but I have an idea for what it could do. For now, just keep it in mind that it's an ability. And then we move on to stats. Starting off with intelligence. There's a few avenues we could go down. I think typically, since we've never done something that's so close to a wolf, like we've had Dogman, but that's like wolf Bigfoot hybrid. We've done a werewolf, but still, once again, human wolf hybrid. This is kind of just wolf flat. And I believe we said like our gauge for intelligence is like dog intelligence is baseline intelligence. Human is 10.
Yes.
So naturally I'd want to say 5, but then I kind of take the spiritual aspect and could see it being a little smarter. And I believe we've done something similar before.
Because are we adding that it has the ability to howl because it knows that something like you're going to die or you're possibly going to die by the end of the year? And so it kind of has like it would have like, I know you're going to hate this, but it's going to have like a Mothman foresight of, oh, something bad's going to happen.
No, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's got like that foresight ability to it.
So would that add to its intelligence, or?
I think it would. It's just kind of how much do we want to add because of it? Is this just knowledge it knows or knowledge that is programmed into it kind of thing? If there's even much of a difference, that's just how I was thinking.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like it would get that much intelligence boost. It would maybe boost up a point for knowing that, and then not like verbally telling, but just doing something that's going to tell you, oh, yeah, this is going to happen.
And then my other thing is like, I wonder if it howls because it knows and it's warning you like you're going to die this year, or if it's just a little bastard and it's like, I'm going to howl and somebody's going to hear and they're going to fucking die and it's going to be hilarious. So is it intentional? Does it know? Is it just doing it for fun? But we could go on and on about that. So I like your +1 thing. I could go +2 at max, but
I wouldn't go +2 for that. I would only go +1. I would say if we're going 5 or 6, it would have to be like, actually I would probably just label it a 6.
That's what I was thinking. And we'll go with 6. Power. Very interesting one. I'm not going to say it's a 10.
Oh no, it's not 10.
Do you include that it will have very sharp teeth as it's a canine, sharp claws. I'm just going to give it sharp claws because canine and some kind of demon.
I mean, it still crushed a whole podium, right?
Oh yeah.
And then
whether or not that's strength or just its sheer weight on the podium crushed it. But you could also label
But I mean, like 200 pounds isn't that heavy. It wouldn't be able to bring up a podium like that. It would have to have some force behind it to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, 8, 7, somewhere I'd put it.
I'm gonna go with 8. That was originally what I had in mind. This thing's strong and it's big, and then it's got some of that demonic strength. Whatever. Taking that out, I still think it's an 8. Solid 8. And now we're moving on to defense. I think this is going to be a pretty thick boy.
Yeah, it's a wolf, so it'll definitely have some defense. It's not going to be on the level of Skookum Monster, but it's still there.
I think it could be close. I really do.
Well, what are you thinking?
Honestly, I kind of want to go 7.
7?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was going to say maybe a 6, but I guess I can work with a 7.
Just because
there's no reports of... The only reason I gave like Skookum Monster a little higher defense was because it got shot and it wasn't fixed, and so that's what adds to that defense. Now wolves, they do take bullets and they just kind of keep going. That's more of like a health thing. Yeah. But
you know what? Let's go 6. You've swayed my opinion. I think it has the potential for a 7. I do, but I think 6 makes sense as well.
Just because it has a lower defense, though, doesn't mean it couldn't have more health with it.
Yeah, for sure. And, actually, health is after mobility, so never mind my suave intro. Let's talk about mobility, though. I think it's going to be very high.
I'm
it's
thinking
a wolf.
like a 9.
A 9?
10.
I don't want to go 10. I can't remember who we've given 10s.
El Chupacabra was like
Chupacabra
the first one.
was
The first one. He was the first mobility and
Sneak.
stealth.
I think 10s are really saved
Wendigo
for a lot
actually
of the
might have
flyers.
been. I think Wendigo actually might have been the first 10.
In speed?
I think
or
so.
mobility?
That was either that or stealth. I don't think he was 10 in stealth because El Chupacabra was the first one.
Let me pull up Wendigo real quick. Oh my god. My sorting for this stuff originally is horrible. No. Wendigo did have a 10 in stealth. Its mobility was only 7.
Was it stealth?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe El Chupacabra was the first 10.
I think it was. I don't know if that's on my phone or the computer. I'm not even going to bother because I'm pretty sure it was a 10. I kind of want to go with mobility 9.
I can, yeah.
I don't
really
think
think I
it's
could go with
a 10.
I threw a 10 out there and I was like, I don't know about that one. Because we gave a 10 to El Chupacabra because he was just never seen. And he got everything done within a night. So that's kind of like mobility 10 type stuff. For me.
And this thing, it just doesn't really have any feats to me that shows that it's a 10. And I mean, with flying creatures, that's an easy one to give them 10s just because they always have outstanding mobility. And I think... Who did we have fight Thunderbird way back when?
Jersey Devil.
Jersey Devil. I think Jersey Devil may have been a 10. I can't check. I don't know which device it's on. But for a non-flying creature, I think it's super fast. I would give it a 9. And now we move on to HP. No suave intro.
I'm thinking like an 8. Because how I factor the health of a wolf is that once it gets shot or something and it goes more for it, it's like pure adrenaline. And so it's not really health, but at the same time it is. It's the willingness to keep going.
Yeah, it's willpower.
Yeah.
If we had a stamina category, I would put it in there, which I'll talk about more of this at the end. But I think for now, adrenaline would fall into HP under the category. So you think 8?
Yeah, because if I think of a wolf, I would name it 7 if it was just like a regular wolf or something. But with this thing being more demonic... 2 on top of it.
And I think it's a bit bigger than a wolf, too.
Yeah.
Okay, then I could go with an 8. And finally, stealth. I'm feeling the possibility of a 10 here, and let me explain. During my research, there was something that stuck out to me. It's described as having silent steps. Its steps make no noise.
I think I did read something on that, too. I think that's why the howl was the biggest thing, because you don't hear it coming after.
Yeah.
It howls and
you just hear the howl. That's really the only indicator. Unless it makes itself obvious that it's there, that's really the only indicator.
And I think that's more of just like a warning to you. So
yeah. All I'm saying, we're going to hop back before we say, like, okay, this is what stealth is, or have our talk. And I'm going to add silent step into its abilities, because that's a big ability to have.
That is, yeah.
Why did I type in silent abilities? Silent step. Huge ability to have for any stealth build.
Oh, yeah.
Because that almost damn near makes you completely invisible. Unless you broke something.
We can talk about it more in the fight, but there's many implications of how that works.
Oh, yeah. What are you thinking?
I think a 10 is fine. If it's silent step, I can see how that is easily a 10.
I'm going to go 10 as well. There is an argument, I think, here to make it a 9, not a 10. And that's the eye, because it's described as a glowing red eye. But honestly, if it squints, you ain't going to see it, bruh.
If it just disappears and you're looking for it, you're obviously, if it's behind you and you're looking left and it's behind you for that, you're obviously not going to see it if it's just running around.
Yeah. On top of that, silent step mixed with a mobility of 9, that thing's just gone.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's also pitch black fur. At night, it's going to be damn near completely invisible.
And also, I think the glowing eye is just kind of like the moon light just hitting it
like that, or just any kind of light.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a 10 in stealth, it's going to be good. So now, we'll do our roundup for both. Because we do that, it kind of makes no sense to do a stat roundup for the first guy if you're going to cover him again at the end, but that's only just now occurred to me after doing this for a year and then taking a break.
Oh, well.
So, starting off with Black Shuck. Characteristics: 35 inches tall, 200 pounds, bright red eye/eyes. Abilities: Death Howl, Silent Step. Stats: Intelligence 6, Power 8, Defense 6, Mobility 9, HP 8, Stealth 10. And now, the Skookum Monster Recap 2. Characteristics: 8 to 9 feet tall, 3 to 400 pounds, thick long fur. Abilities: Extreme Rage. Stats: Intelligence 7, Power 10, 11 with Rage. Defense 8, Mobility 7, HP 7, Stealth 5. I definitely think the Skookum Monster is better rounded, but I think Black Shuck has some deadly tech in his kit.
Yeah, with the Silent Step, it's a big one. Now, with Skookum Monster's Extreme Rage, that in itself can be pretty
That opens
deadly.
up some problems, but I mean, we'll get into it. I think Black Shuck could work around it.
I just realized I should have given him a higher intelligence.
Who?
The fucking Skookum Monster. I think honestly it could be moved up to an 8.
Really?
That
Argument for it? I mean, we're not finished with the
So-
episode, so it's not sealed yet.
what do we put Skookum Monster or the Black Shulk at? It's what, 7, right?
6.
Okay, never mind.
Am I?
Yeah, because I thought it was 7, and I was like, it's almost on the same level, or it's
Yeah.
on the same level.
Well, and I think the Skookum Monster would be smarter, just generally, because really the only thing that pushes Black Shuck is the future sight ability. Besides that, it seems like its intelligence is closer to that of just a regular wolf. So, let's talk arenas. Honestly, Black Shuck kind of just appears everywhere, because the one person saw him in their military camp, the other kid saw him in the city, but they're also known to prowl the coast and forest.
So just Black Forest. It's just a dark forest.
Dark forest?
They meet each other. He's inside. If you really want to put it, the kid that saw it through his window, boom, there's their house. They're in the forest. There we go.
Our typical cabin forest battle arena.
Exactly.
That gets
Cabin in the
refurbished
woods.
every episode. Okay. Well then, this episode of Cryptid vs. Cryptid is brought to you by our return. Now, I don't remember what we usually do before the fight. I know once upon a time, we did advertise Patreon. But that doesn't exist anymore because I didn't like it. Could it come back? Who knows? Are there any plans for it? No, not even close. Too many other plans for this.
I guess we can advertise other things that have not had anything else. We got a TikTok.
Oh.
We got a Twitter. We
Ugh.
got an Instagram. We don't use them. But they're there. So
The Instagram is the only one that ever really got used, and that has been just about as dead as the podcast the last 5 to 6 months.
if we start picking up popularity, we'll do everything in our power to keep up on that stuff.
Yeah. If you follow us on any of those social media platforms, all I'm going to say is don't expect anything right away. Getting the podcast back on track is priority number 1.
If you really want us to start posting on there, I would say go follow that stuff so we get more followers and more reason to go to that.
I think I'll make an Instagram post for this episode, like I did for all the previous episodes when we were making them. I'll make one, but main priority is going to be the podcast until we can get it under control, and we'll talk about it more at the end.
With the TikTok, if you guys go follow that, and we wanted to.
I don't even know what we're going to do with that shit.
You post it, and you just post something. There's stuff we can do, but we can talk behind the scenes about
We'll
that
figure
stuff.
it. TikTok is definitely a behind the scenes story.
If you guys want any of that stuff, and see anything that we do on other than just the podcasts, go follow that stuff. Show us that you want that, and we'll do it.
Yeah, so this episode of Cryptid vs. Cryptid has been brought to you in part by our dead social media platforms. Now, let's get into today's main event. In one corner, we have the Skookum Monster. In the other corner, we have Black Shuck. They meet each other in the middle of a forest with a cabin with no windows and only one door. How do you think this starts out?
Okay. Obviously, I think that Skookum Monster is more of an aggressor. Now, another thing is I don't know how much of an aggressor, because it seems like he only really starts going after an attack once he gets attacked. But if he sees a creature, I think he would be more of an aggressor.
It's in its territory. So.
Yeah.
Here's my thing though. I don't think it's going to see Black Shuck
Really?
at the start of the fight.
Even with the glowing red eye, it's not like it's hiding. That's the whole thing, is that it's not hiding, so it would obviously see something at least. I think there's enough moonlight through the forest to...
the first move in this is going to be Black Shuck letting out a howl. Now, I wanted to bring this up once we got into the fight.
Let's rewind. I got this.
Okay. I'm still going to make my point, but you go ahead.
Skookum Monster is walking through the forest. All of a sudden, he hears a howl out in the distance. When he sees it, it's the
Black
Shuck running towards him. That's the next thing he sees.
Here's what I want to talk about the howl. Obviously, I don't think the Skookum Monster is going to be obviously aware of the history of the Black Shuck.
He might think it's just a wolf or something. That's just
I think the ability to come out of the howl is more of an intimidation debuff. And he howls to intimidate the enemies that aren't aware of its history or its knowledge. So I think it could apply a small intimidation onto the Skookum Monster.
So it's more... Why it intimidates from the howl is that people know of it. That's what intimidates people of the howl.
For sure.
But I don't know if it would really intimidate the Skookum Monster, because he wouldn't even know... He doesn't even have the intelligence to know about it and know the history, and that it's a sign of death.
I think he does it, but I think the Skookum Monster doesn't take it as fear. I think he takes it as a challenge over his land. Yeah. And I think that activates his rage buff. Because it's like, you're in my territory, and now you're fucking gloating about it or tempting me or something. Boom, now his strength's an 11. And he sees it running at him.
How I can see this is that it's not really one going after the other. It could just be both of them charging at each other.
I think that is going to be what it comes down to. There's not really one aggressor. They're both just aggressive at each other.
Yeah.
But now it comes down to what's going to win over. The faster, quieter movement of the... And not just win overall, but win this first clash. The faster movement of Black Shuck, or just the sheer monstrous strength of the Skookum Monster.
Honestly, I might be able to win in both ways. I think, if anything, Black Shuck probably lands the first hit with a bite on like the arm or something, but then that gives the chance when he has it latched down for the Skookum Monster to kind of just grab him and like fling him, and so then he might hit a tree or something, and that does the damage there.
I was thinking pretty much the same exact thing. I'm thinking maybe he goes for a low bite on his leg to try and immobilize him. And Skookum Monster, maybe he's a little shaken up. He's got some high defense. It's going to be hard to really break through without some kind of critical hit. And so I think he just kicks him with his 11 strength, which is going to do some damage.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to break pretty easily through Black Shuck's defense. But luckily he's got high HP, so it's not like the one kick is going to completely throw him out.
It breaks through his defense, but he has enough health to back it up. So he's more of, you want to call that a tank, but he has more resistance, I guess you can say.
Yeah. But what do you think their next move is? Their next move.
Obviously, at this point, I think Black Shuck would be smart enough to at least know, okay, I can't attack this thing.
Yeah, a direct attack isn't going to work.
So that's when he starts using his stealth.
Okay.
And it's another thing of he's just going away. Would he howl again, or would he just not?
No, I think he realized at this point, if he's smart enough to realize a head-on attack isn't going to work, I think he also has realized that this thing is just going to get more mad, and then it brings up the thought, if I keep pissing it off more with the howl, is it going to get even stronger? So I think it cuts the howl out, and it just relies solely on its stealth at this point. Because that direct hit's going to do a lot of damage.
At that point, you can't hear this thing coming, and it's obviously not going to attack him head on. So he's going to be waiting for a moment to go like straight at him when he's not looking or he's distracted.
Yeah, like an attack on the back or something.
So, as just like to keep the cinematic viewing of this through your imaginations, dear viewers. Fucking Skookum Monster hears a kid scream from the cabin, gets distracted by that and roars, and that's when Black Shuck comes in for the next attack. Now, would he latch on again? Or not even if he would latch on. When he bites him or something, do you think Skookum Monster would have enough mobility to attack after that?
I'm still caught up on what his next attack would be, because I see it in two ways. he either goes for some kind of scratch on the back, maybe with both claws, maybe with one. Or, if we want to keep it cinematic, he goes for a grapple, latches on with its claws, and bites into his neck.
Okay.
Which, if we're going logistically, scratch has my vote. If we're going more fun and playful with the episode, I think the grapple.
So,
but we can also explore.
There's also another one that he tries to bite through its side to like maybe break one of its ribs to kind of slow him down even more. Mm-hmm. But at that point, fucking Skookum Monster can just easily backhand him, and it's in the same position. So I don't know if he would exactly go for that, because it's not like he still has that high of a defense, or not intelligence. Is what I meant. He doesn't have enough like intelligence. He has the battle mindset, but he doesn't have like intelligence to think of all his moves in a split
like
second.
some kind of tactical mindset.
Yeah. So I still think he would go for the pounce, because he's obviously still more of an aggressor. He's not more of a well thought out. He's just more aggressive towards everything.
So you think just like a slash or something like that?
Well, no. I'm saying the slash would be more of like a battle IQ play there, because then he would know. But I think he's still more of an aggressor, so he would go for the grapple. So to try and show his dominance.
Do as much damage as he can in this one attack and sort of slowly whittle him down.
Because how I would see this now is it's more of like an ego battle between both of them, and who's the stronger one, who's coming out of this on top.
Okay. Now we have him grappled onto the back of the Skookum Monster. I see the Skookum Monster, I think it's going to take some heavy damage. Because while maybe it's going to be hard for him to really get him with the claws, I think a bite is going to have more force behind it. So he either bites him like top shoulder area right here or in the neck. I think he'll probably go for the neck. He can
dig his claws in the back and then also just bite him on the neck.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about this attack is that it's definitely a lot more risky, because at this point, then Skookum Monster can easily just grab him. Mm-hmm. So even if he's in pain, he does have enough defense to just be like, okay, I'm going to toughen it through it. And that's when he grabs him and he can just slam him on the ground at that point.
Well, and I think that's where it's going to go, because that's really his only option. That or just fall back and land on him. But I don't think he's going to go for that.
I mean, technically he could. He weighs like double the amount of him.
Oh, yeah.
And so if something double lands on you, you're obviously not going to feel very good at it.
I also don't think, though, that your first reaction is just to fall back. I think it's more of a, grab it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where he's going to go.
Now, does he grab him just by the body, or would he be grabbing him by, like, the neck, the arms, or not arms, but, like, paws and arms?
I think he's just reaching straight back, not like going for the head or something. He's just reaching straight back, grabbing into arm or body or whatever he can, and then he either slams or just throws as hard as he can.
Now, how much damage would you think that would do? Because this guy, he has 11 power, so if he's throwing something, even if he's throwing something, he throws it through a log cabin. So to throw someone on the ground, this is making a pretty loud thud.
Yeah. I think if he goes for the grounds, first of all, personally, I think he's just going to go for the throw. Mm-hmm. Create some distance, get it off, give him a chance to recover.
Okay.
But I think if he goes for the slam, he's definitely going to do more damage.
But he would also know the slam would lead, because he's already seen this thing sneak off, and he knows he can't hear it now at this point. So I think he would know better just to slam it on the ground and keep him close, because he can't get away as easily, especially if he slams him on the ground.
How close are they to the cabin?
I don't know. Maybe like 20 feet.
I think he throws him into the cabin.
But that would create distance.
Not too much distance, as to where if he were just to throw him straight randomly into the forest. Plus, if he throws him into the cabin, he knows he's going to have something to throw it at, causing more damage.
And to look towards, at least, I would say.
And it's going to be hard to just run away if you're in the cabin or through the cabin or against the cabin. It's going to limit where you can run to hide away.
Okay, I can deal with that. Changes the battlefield now.
A little bit. So I think he's going to throw him. Do you think Black Shuck is going through the cabin?
Yes.
Okay.
We've seen what he's done with a little, or like a kind of, not a boulder, but a big rock. Yeah. We've seen what he's done to a log cabin. So I think he would be able to throw it through it. Just a regular cabin. Yeah.
So I think Black Shuck at this point still has that adrenaline boost, still going strong.
I don't know if going strong is the right word, because he's gotten
weakened.
thrown.
He's weakened, but he's still in the fight. I don't think he's out quite yet.
Oh yeah, no, he's not out, but I don't think his speed is gonna be as high.
No, definitely not.
His stealth will be high, but now that they're in the cabin, it's definitely not gonna be as high.
It's gonna be hard to pull off a stealth maneuver in the cabin. But I was thinking the Skookum Monster's taken a good amount of damage because he bit into his throat, and then when I imagine he grabs him, the thing is still just gnawed into his throat.
I don't know.
So
if
he's got a lot ripped out of his neck right now.
I don't know if that would be through his throat. I think it's more of like he has these deep. So how I picture it is he grabs him, the black Shulk screams out in pain because he's grabbing him probably if he's grabbing him from the back, he has to be grabbing him from like the ribs, and with the strength of the Skookum Monster, he's crushing his
gripping
ribs.
tight.
And so at that point lets out a scream, but he still has his claws in him, kind of just like keep leverage, and so I think when he does that, it kind of rips some of the skin off of.
So I do think the Skookum Monster's taken some damage, but I think Black Shook's taken more.
Oh yeah, there's no question about that. He's gotten.
And I think at this point, with the amount of damage Skookum Monster's taken, he's not going to take any risks. He either picks up the nearest rock or the nearest branch, and has equipped himself with a weapon now. And I think that would help also keep the distance between them, so they're not too close to where he would risk taking some damage.
I got it. This cabin has a little porch. He grabs one of the little poles that's holding the roof of the porch off, just rips it straight off, and then he has this little fucking pole. And then he bursts through the door, and the Black Shulk, whatever, is still there.
Black Shook. I'm gonna be honest. Obviously, we're gonna finish this fight to the end, but in my opinion, I think the battle's pretty much wrapped up at this point. I've pretty much foreseen the winner now.
So obviously, I'm thinking Skookum Monster because he has the strength to back it up. He has the defense to back it up. His health is still lower, but it's still high enough for him, and he has somewhat of an IQ to go through there with this.
Well, and now Black Shook's he's got very little on his side now. He's trapped in an enclosed area. He's really weakened.
His ribs are broken. His back is broken.
He's got the fighting adrenaline still in him, but he's just really too weak to use it to anything. And so I think Skookum Monster just beats him to death.
I think he would get a good, at least hit in, because he still probably has the mobility due to adrenaline.
Yeah.
But he's definitely at least getting impaled by this thing, and that's the end of it right there. Yeah. He gets impaled. Fucking Skookum Monster literally just impales him and then just goes boom right to the roof, and that's the end of it.
Now, obviously he wins in that fight. The way I judge who the true winner is by thinking about all of the scenarios where this could have gone. I still think the Skookum Monster is going to win in the end. When I thought of this fight, I thought at night. If you take it into daytime, I think Skookum Monster still
wins.
I think he'll have more advantage than he did at night, just because as impressive as Black Shook's stealth is, he's not as stealthy during the day.
Well, yeah, you take away his whole black coat. It's pretty easy to spot black at that point.
Also, I think the stealth is good, but it's only really good for sneak attacks. And while he does have good strength, it's not enough, I would say, to land one-shot criticals over and over.
It's also, attack may be good, but it's still not good enough to break through that defense that
not easily break it through, at least. Like, he almost exclusively has to go for vital areas, and by exclusively go for vital areas, he's going to have to keep going after the neck, or hope to just keep landing attacks in the same spot on the body.
They're all close to the Skookum Monster where he can grab them. Yeah. And so that's the worst part. If he could go for something like his legs and stuff and just eventually let him bleed out, he would win. But that's a very, very low possibility. Because at that point, when he's doing such repetitive attacks, Skookum Monster is going to get a hold of that idea and just know where to go next.
Yeah. So I think pretty easily we could say Skookum Monster takes the victory for today.
I did think for a little bit that the Black Skull would win.
Especially with his stealth being a 10, that's a really hard thing to counter. But with the Skookum Monster having 11 strength when his rage is active, which, let's be honest, it's going to get procced every time he's in a fight.
If it's not getting procced at the beginning, it's getting procced right after their first attack.
Oh, yeah. And I think maybe if he only had a 10 in power and he didn't have the feat of being able to throw rocks through logs, I think the fight would have turned out differently. I could see Black Shuck being the winner in this episode. But I think with his sheer strength and honestly really well-rounded abilities, I just think he takes the dub. And so with that, we welcome him into the Hall of Champions.
Another Bigfoot to win the Hall of Champions.
Yeah. And if you remember anything, you would know this is episode 4 of like season 4, I think. So what comes next, Roger?
The final episode, the whole roundup of this season.
Cryptid versus Cryptid, mashup and rehash. Is that what it's called?
I think yeah. Or it's just rehash. I don't even think it's mashup. I think it's just rehash.
It's something like that.
Either way, this what, our 5th one now?
4th one.
Oh, you
This
make
is season
5.
4.
That's cool.
Because season 1, obviously, a lot of big hitters. Season 2 was the water. Season 3 was us going back to our roots. And season 4 has been all over the place. It's been a mess. Especially when you consider episode 4 is coming out 5 to 6 months later. So, possibly when you hear us again, it'll be Mashup and Rehash 4. Could be something different. But Mashup and Rehash will be the next episode of Cryptid versus Cryptid series coming out.
It could be that, or it could be Cryptid versus Conspiracy, or it could just be something else that we thought of to do.
Yeah. Oh man, this is going to be a lot to edit. Oh well, who cares? Now, let's talk some believability. Let's start with the Skookum Monster.
I'm going to be honest, probably one of the most believable Bigfoot ones, because it has that one of the most believable Bigfoot stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it has that whole evidence with the, body and stuff.
For me, I would say it's middle of the road Bigfoot. For me, I don't know. The minor one, it's got a lot of witnesses. I could see that one having some, I don't remember, can't recall what the word is, but I could put some belief into that story.
The other thing is with this one, it wasn't like they were tired of their job and they were trying to find a reason to get out of it.
Yeah.
They just came back from a break from prospecting. So they were literally going back to go back to it, but then all this stuff happened. And that's what makes me believe it a little more, too.
And this is 1924. You got to keep that in mind. This was not something that ever happened.
Yeah.
It's not like today where you go and you say your Bigfoot story and you could end up writing a book or becoming popular in the scene.
Or police just get random Bigfoot calls because they saw a Bigfoot type stuff. It's not like that.
So I do put some credit in that story. When it comes to the cast, a big critic when it comes to the Patterson-Gimlin film, which I do want to cover on an episode of Cryptid versus Conspiracies down the road. But I'm a big critic when it comes to that video. And I'm also a big critic when it comes to this cast because, yeah, maybe, if you know your shit, you look at the Skookum cast and you're like, yes, that is the lane pattern of something that I've never seen before, or it is something I've seen before. I see it and I'm like I looked at the first one, the first two right there, I'm like, I have no fucking clue what the fuck I'm looking at. And in the breakdown, I really got to stretch things for it to really make sense to me or really picture it. So I don't think it's not evidence. It's just, personally, I can't use that evidence myself for my believability.
It's also a thing that you're not, big into imprints and shit. These are kind of pros doing their job with it.
And it's not a straightforward cast like a foot cast is, where you can obviously see it. This is a piece of evidence where you have to know exactly what you're looking at.
It does have a lot of stretching to do with it. For all we can tell, this fucking length right here is just a schlong.
Yeah. When this episode's over, I have an idea for another episode, but it has to do with that. Yeah, I don't know. Do we give these number ratings our believability?
Not really. It's just,
really.
Do we believe them or not?
Yeah, the Skookum Monster, I'm middle of the road. Because it's a Bigfoot. I'm a Bigfoot believer. There's some good evidence, but at the same time, even if I say the print's good evidence, that's really only 2 pieces, because everything else that comes out of Skookum Monster is just basic run-of-the-mill Bigfoot sightings, which personally, I think
to me, also, these are technically just Bigfoot. They're just named something different. They're obviously one of the first Bigfoot
Yes,
sightings.
there's some differences there, but at the end of the day, it is just Bigfoot. It's not on a completely different spectrum like
Skunk Ape or
Skunk
Yeti, stuff
this
like
one
that.
is definitely just almost borderline Bigfoot. Your thoughts?
Like I said, it's one of the more believable Bigfoot things just because of that first initial story. That one was kind of like a heavy hitter for Bigfoot evidence.
And Black Shuck, I'm just going to say it. No. To me, this isn't real. A lot of the big sightings, the church one, I don't know.
So, let's just point it
out. I don't like Christianity. It was a Christian church, so I'm not even going to touch that.
So let's just start. Church one is its only story, okay?
Really, yeah.
Easily could be faked and shit. It could just be a cult killing 2 people, and they're like, oh, we gotta blame it on something.
It could just be a complete local legend that they made up way down the road.
Has no other real good stories with it for that.
A lot of the stories come from children, little children.
It's coming from lore where we don't know if it has 1 eye or if it has 2 eyes. We've never really seen this thing as much, even though that's why they said it has also, oh, if you see it, you're gonna die. Yeah. But people haven't died when they see it.
Well, and I feel like there'd be something there, really, if that was true.
Yeah. So it's a cool story. It's like, this is how I see it. It's like Go Man. Okay? Go Man's obviously not real. Cool story. Everything else is cool. Story. But that's it. It's just like a urban myth that people told to scare other people.
No, I'm 100% on board. Cool story. Cool lore. It's super popular. Like, you know it's a cool story because it's in a bunch of different media. Mm-hmm. Like, it's most recently was in Assassin's Creed Valhalla as a mini-boss. Very cool, obviously. Is it real? No. I think it's total myth and legend, which is fine. I think that's cool. That's where all the cool shit comes from, is myths and legends. But that's just what it is. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that wraps up Cryptid versus Cryptid episode whatever we're on. I don't remember. In the 20s.
We're finally back. That's
you do the math, this would be like episode 19, not including specials or anything like that.
Yeah, no, we've done a lot of episodes, but overall, Cryptid versus Cryptid.
So with that, if you've reached this part, the episode before editing is already up to 1 hour and 15 minutes. We still have some stuff to talk about. I'm probably not going to edit this part because the main part of the episode's done. It's finished. This is just going to be us talking about stuff we need to talk about because there's stuff that needs to be talked about. So this is going to be all off the cuff, non-edited.
First of all, we're real sorry about the whole big gap, but a lot of stuff has happened in our lives, and we've kind of been pushing stuff off, so it's...
Yeah, when we hit 5,000 downloads, I'll put a number on it. We'll talk more in depth on what's gone on in the last 5 months. I'll talk about personally my views on it and stuff. So if you're interested in that, get us to 5,000. We'll put out a special. We'll talk about that stuff. And other Cryptid versus Cryptid news stuff that comes about or has happened that you can obviously tell there's something there. If you listen to the last few episodes, there's a big difference. Yeah. But, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But like Roger said, we are sorry for the long gap. Now, just because this episode came out, you know us, that doesn't mean we're back on the 2-week schedule right away.
We're trying to get better at it, but things have happened. We're trying to do other stuff to where it's going to get in the way of this. So if we don't come out with an episode right away, we're going to try and get it out as soon as possible.
And we're moving in the next month, and we're no longer going to be sharing a house. So that's another reason why things are going to slow down for a bit. There will be changes to how we do the episodes and how they're going to be produced.
Quality might change in talking and everything, or it might not. It might just be different scheduling stuff. Yeah. But any ways, it's just going to change. It's just how it is. We can't keep a schedule all the time. If we keep getting the views and everything, you guys keep showing love, we're going to keep trying harder because to us, it's you guys that matter. And it sounds cliche, but in the end, every time that's all that matters.
Cliche as fuck. I mean, at some point, you watch YouTube and stuff growing up, you follow people, and they say the same shit, and it's like, that's cliche as fuck. But then you start doing this shit, and you see it for yourself, and you're like, yeah, it's cliche, because that's how it is.
For us, it's just how the job is. That's how you have to do it. So it's just...
And even when we've been gone... Obviously, I get the emails, and I've told you, like, hey, we hit 4,500 downloads, and I see that people still listen. It's, while I'm not doing it, or while we weren't doing it, it was like, that's still fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Like,
And the fact that we've gotten the cryptid versus conspiracies, like, trend all the way on there.
That shit has blown up. It's easily become our third and fourth most popular episodes.
And when we were talking about the idea, that was it. I kind of knew it because that was like it's such a big thing to talk about, and that's why I love
it's a big thing to expand on.
And
should we add onto our show?
Should we talk about the future of what's going to happen?
I think if you're a true fan and you've stuck through to the end of the episode, you deserve some of our future plans for Cryptid versus Cryptid. Yeah. Now, originally, when I brought up the comeback of Cryptid versus Cryptid to you and other people, this was about going to be the end. Because we do have a finale for Cryptid versus Cryptid planned. After we do our update, our rehash and mashup, we will be doing the Cryptid versus Cryptid series finale. I don't want to spoil the details on it. It'll be big. It'll be multi-episode. There will be guests, new guests, old returning guests. It'll be epic.
Overall, it's just the end of the content for Cryptid versus Cryptid. That doesn't mean everything's going to end, though. We can obviously still bring back Cryptid versus Cryptid with stuff, but overall, it's going to kind of slow down a lot.
And you've seen the screenshots that I sent when we originally started planning the finale.
Yeah.
There's still cryptids to do, and I do want to cover them. Cryptid versus Cryptid is just being put on the back burner. It's no longer going to be our main flagship title for this show.
Yeah.
If you like it, stick around. There will be more. I want to make some updates to how we do it, too. So when it comes back, it won't just be the same shit we've been doing. There will be some differences to make it stand out. As far as other content, I credit you with Cryptids versus Conspiracies. That was your idea. Anything you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we gotta start coming up with more conspiracies. I do have a lot more. I can talk about those all day. That's kind of my thing. But to see like the Palmyra wolves get up there, and I didn't even think that was that big of a deal. Yeah. And to see it get up there on the ratings, I was like, okay, this is good.
And there's obviously, I want to cover some big stuff, like big conspiracies. I think with Cryptids versus Conspiracies, obviously I'm going to run ideas by you. I'm going to give you main control over this series. I definitely want to stick with niche stuff like the Palmyra Wolves, but I also want to cover big topics.
Yes.
I have some ideas. I definitely think we should talk about Patterson-Gimlin film. There's a lot to unpack there. I also want to start delving into aliens and stuff. Because we've always talked about how we can't do it on Cryptids versus Cryptids because it wouldn't make sense.
I wasn't going to spoil anything, but that was one of the big things I was going to talk to you about a bigger episode about not just like one alien, but just like just overall aliens as a whole.
Okay. Definitely. There's one case that I've become aware of recently that I really want to talk about. It's really interesting. Honestly, I think it's the best, if not one of the best proof that there is something out there. There's, even if we come to the conclusion that it's not aliens, there's something going on.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not into aliens, then what the fuck are you doing? You know what you can do? You can go, if you have a PC, go on the Steam, download the demo, They Are Here, and then tell me you're not into aliens, alright? If you guys email me and say you're not into aliens after that, then I'll believe you.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean we're just going to go straight into that alien-only stuff. Cryptids will always be the mainstay here. That's what
to bring in aliens is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, the show's growing. And I think the last thing we should talk about is there is an idea in the making. Nothing solid yet. But if you enjoy listening to our episodes every 2 weeks, I'm thinking about working on another project that if you like what we do, you like listening, you wish you could listen on a more regular basis, so you didn't have to wait 2 weeks between episodes. We do have something in the works that is going to be a week-to-week show. Still here on Cryptid vs. Cryptid, but it's going to be something a little different, something easier to manage to the point where we can put one out every week.
And if there's other things you want us to branch out to, like if you wanted us to branch out more towards like gaming, because we can do stuff like that. If you want us to branch out to like gaming or anything else, just email us and let us know. Show that you support that or anything else that we wanted to see us do. and get us to know us more than just the people that talk about cryptids that I think we're crazy or whatever.
Or if you got ideas for the main show or any of the other shows, let us know. We didn't mention it at all, and I totally forgot, but you can email us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That's the main way you're going to reach us. I check that email every day, pretty much. But I think that wraps up about everything we have to talk about the show. More to talk about, but it'll come down the road. And with that, this episode of Cryptid vs. Cryptid has reached its end. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Roger.
And we'll see you in the next episode.
Later.
See ya.